Welcome, kindreds. It's Jessica with your Pisces New Moon reading. This Pisces New Moon is on February the 28th and is a huge gathering in the sign of the Sage of Pisces. And that is a place where dreams blend with reality. This Pisces New Moon is pulling us into introspection and into a quest for deep spiritual truth. But the danger is that we can lose our footing and become ungrounded in the process. So in this video, I want to take you through the layers of this particular Pisces New Moon, and we'll explore ways in which we can navigate the energy to get the best out of this lunation. Pisces Moon is a deeply introspective time and is marked by heightened sensitivity and intuition. It invites us to connect with our innermost feelings, dreams, subconscious desires. Pisces is the very last sign of the zodiac, and it represents endings, transitions, and the dissolution, the dissolving of boundaries, making this new moon an ideal time for spiritual reflection, healing, and releasing what no longer serves us. So under the influence of a Pisces new moon, there's an emphasis on connecting with the numinous, with the ethereal, embracing empathy and understanding the kind of like the unseen, those mystical elements of life. And it encourages us to listen to our intuition and trust in that flow of the universe, you know, that thing that all that is beyond our kind of like individual human experience. And this, when we do this, it can lead to really profound insights and creative inspiration. This is a really good period to nurture our spiritual health, and we can seek closure, forgiveness as well, and prepare for renewal as the zodiac cycle is like renewing with this Pisces moon, you know, because we come to this Pisces new moon in Pisces and then our next moon is going to be the new moon in Aries, and that's when like we're moving into eclipse season then as well. So this is like our last new moon in the cycle, so it's got even more of those ideas of kind of like endings and beginnings just like embedded into the energy of this Pisces new moon. If you want like guidance for like rituals, prompts, things like that to work with the moon, I have created a guide to the Pisces new moon which has got recommendations, and it's got like specific focus area depending on your own particular sign. It's completely free, so I'll put the link to that in the description of this video. That though is like a general Pisces new moon guide, whereas I want to look now at like the specifics of this Pisces new moon. And you probably will have seen, if you're interested in astrology, which I'm assuming you are if you're watching this video, that we have like this massive convergence of the planets in a very kind of like concentrated part of the chart. So when we're looking here, this is in my honeycomb planner, I'll link that down below as well. We've got so many planets here in Pisces. We've also got Pluto here like in Aquarius, just kind of like cutched up towards the end of that, and then we've got Venus and Chiron in Aries. We've got Uranus in Taurus, and then we've got Jupiter in Gemini, and very last we've got Mars in Cancer. So we've got like kind of like Mars and Pluto at like the end of this very compact, really like grouping of planets with like the most action definitely going on. Well, the most action definitely going on in Pisces, but spilling out with that Venus that has just gone through Pisces into Aries as well. It's going to be retrograding back into there. So it's like tied in, that Venus is still tied into everything that is going on here as well. So it is a very like concentrated, very, very concentrated energy. And when we have that, with, you know, like that big convergence of the planets, it invites us to really like in Pisces specifically, that's bringing like a lot of different planetary energies into that Piscean realm of embracing those like spiritual shifts and even like karmic realignment. Like we do have the nodes here as well. Like the nodes are shifted into Pisces and Virgo now at the moment. So there is that element of like bigger picture karmic stuff that is going on with this moon as well. Like I said, with it being the last sign of the zodiac as well, we've got that endings energy, which is then going to be coming into like the bombastic new beginnings energy as we move into that Aries moon and into eclipse season as well next time. With so many planets in Pisces though, we're feeling that pull towards introspection and emotional depth, but the challenge that we are faced with, it lies in like navigating that Piscean kind of like watery, it's kind of like a distorted realm, you know, it's like, it is like as if we're kind of like underwater when it's quite hard to see. And so sometimes we can get a little bit lost when we're in that, you know, we can get lost in like kind of spiritual mode, you know, like kind of like into really deep like introspection, but we can also like veer into kind of like escapism or even like overwhelm sometimes, because there is a lot of sensitivity around this new moon as well. So if you're a sensitive person just already in general, then around, you know, like for this whole moon cycle, our systems are going to be on like higher alert. We're going to be more just open and aware of like messages and things coming in, you know, like we have got Mercury in the mix here in Pisces as well, you know, so like we are open to this, but the messages may be coming through in a kind of like a confusing way, which can, yeah, it can feel kind of like overwhelming. And like with Pisces in general, they can sometimes be like a wanting to like retreat from the world. And like I talked about this a little bit as well with that last moon, that it had some of that retreat hermit energy, which makes sense because we are in a hermit year. So try and balance that in your life, you know, in this moon cycle, is that we need to be like making space for the introspection, but also trying to not get like lost or pulled into fantasy, and especially probably like avoiding substances and things which might pull us out of ourselves a bit too much, because we're already being pulled in that direction anyway. So we don't want to kind of like exacerbate that. You know, we want to be able to use this alignment to foster our like really deep spiritual growth, not like kind of escaping or like retreating from the truth of like what it is that we're experiencing right now. So we've also got like Mars now direct in Cancer, and it's like loosely trining everything that is going on in this Pisces stellium as well. And that is like, it is, I feel like, supporting our emotional courage to really like face those deep waters. We need to do some kind of like some bold housekeeping now. And I mean like housekeeping in terms of ourselves, you know, like our internal housekeeping, you know, we need to kind of get to the root of anything that has been just kind of like lingering in closets and things there. Now we can use that Mars energy of like clean sweeping to be able to clear out any of that like bullshit that might be lingering around in there as well. And then we also have got Venus here in Aries, like I said, has kind of come through Pisces and now into Aries, and we'll be dipping back into Pisces again. So there's definitely like there's an air of like unfinished business around that Venus. And like Venus in Aries is a feisty Venus. It challenges to assert like our individual needs, but you know, we're going to go back into the collective. So it's that kind of like tension between like our individual needs, showing up for ourselves, our needs, and then also those kind of collective needs. And I feel like this is very similar in some ways to that Aquarius moon that just passed, but with it's like the kind of same thing, but like in a different font, as my daughter would say. You know, we're approaching this now rather from a more spiritual lens, from a more like kind of Piscean, like the sage, the mystic kind of lens, rather than through the lens of that Aquarius that we had last time. But it's still the same sort of work. It's finding that kind of the place where us, the kind of true core of ourselves, meets the other, and how those things can kind of like peacefully coexist, can even like kind of creatively interact with each other to build something new, to create something new. Pisces is also a very like creative sign. Even as it wants to kind of like dissolve, it dissolves things so that we can then use those broken up parts as raw material for new creative ideas. You know, this is a moon that is ruled by Jupiter. You know, Pisces is the traditional ruler of Pisces is Jupiter. So like a lot of people talk about Neptune as being the ruler of Pisces. That is the modern ruler. And yes, you know, Neptune and Pisces have got very, very similar significations. But the traditional ruler is Jupiter. And Jupiter now direct here in Gemini, it like wants to bring that kind of like creative, thinky dynamism into this as well. You know, it's not just about, it's bringing like an intellectual buzz into this moon as well. And it's urging us to find like meaningful ways to communicate our dreams and like really actually like integrate them, to move them from just dreams into reality, into our daily lives. So that's, you know, there is a lot going on. And then we've got a sextile also happening from Uranus in Taurus to Mars, and also to the stuff that is going on in Pisces as well. So that suggests like, you know, that Uranus in Taurus has been rumbling on for a while, and we have been having like unexpected material changes, perhaps in like resources, but we're being kind of like supported now to anchor those changes and those Piscean dreams along with that Uranus to actually make like tangible outcomes. Things are starting to be released, to be surrendered. Like surrender is most definitely like a keyword alongside Pisces, but like I said, it's that release, that surrender, that composting, in order to break things down to their bare parts so that we can kind of like experience what it's like to be one with all that is. And then we're going to start collecting those pieces up, and we're going to move into that Aries, and we're going to start to like think, okay, this is for me. This is for me. I'm going to put these things together. It's got a very creative quality about it with this new moon. It's not just about dreaming. It's also about making those dreams actionable and real. So, you know, you can use the new moon guide. Like I said, I'll link that down below to give you like a more like a life area that this is happening in for you, so you can kind of like apply that more to your life. But yeah, I want to be able to use this in like a practical way, rather than just, you know, like we could just get all kind of like dreamy, and like probably around the very moment of the new moon we probably are better off just kind of like sinking into that dreaminess. But then as the light does start to return, as we move through that cycle, as we move towards that Virgo lunar eclipse that is coming on the 14th of March, we do want to start getting practical as well, you know, and kind of like getting ready for that eclipse season as well, because eclipse season is a portal, and it is going to mean that there's like a speeding up of change in those areas of our kind of like spiritual self and our kind of like discrete, our more individual self. Okay, so let's look for some tarot to have a look at some more like practical insights on how we can use this moon. I'm going to use the Good Tarot for this. It just seemed very, like, I find this deck, even though it's obviously got all of the suits in it, I do still find it quite watery in general. Like, I think it's just the way the colours are kind of like blended in this deck that make it feel kind of like Piscean to me. And it's not that Pisces is always like gentle and soft. Like, Pisces can have a lot of power to it as well, but it's like a kind of like a universal power. I think it's because its power is so spread out that it gets experienced in a different way than you know, than Aries power, for example. Very different. You know, they couldn't be more different, those two signs. I already shuffled these cards before we started, but I just want to give them another little mix before drawing them. I'm going to take 3 cards. The first card is going to be like a general, like kind of the energy of this moon cycle. So let's have a look what we've got there. And we've got the Queen of Air. And do you see what I mean about this deck being quite watery, even though it's like air? Is that, you know, the air element is not a water element, but it still looks kind of like, it's got that fantastic, you know, like fantasy element to it. And I think that's really interesting. We've got this like kind of almost like a blended image here. The Queen of Air is normally very much about insight and kind of like having the ability to make really kind of sharp decisions. And I'm really seeing, like, with, especially with, it's very Athena-esque, this figure, you know, with the owl here as well on the shoulder, or Minerva, the Roman expression of Athena. It's got that kind of like wisdom energy, and like very much connecting in with the ruler of this moon, with that Jupiter, you know, as being like a wise kind of beneficent kind of moon. You know, we've got that wisdom that can come through, but because it is also like a little bit blurry, I find that the messages, those kind of like clear, far seeing, you know, the owls can see even in the dark, you know, those messages of the Queen of Air. We just need to take care a little bit around this moon, that the messages that we really are sure that they're clear, you know. So use that kind of Queen of Air discernment to be able to pierce through, you know, and not kind of get lost in the fantasy, and to be able to, yeah, really, like, we need to bring our rational, you know, we need to bring this Gemini into it as well. We need to do some thinking as well as kind of feelings. We bring our felt sense. We also bring our intellect, our discernment to the energy of this moon. And that is how we're going to blend those energies the best and really get the best out of working with, you know, with this whole moon cycle, which is, like I say, is taking us into, well into March, you know, towards the end of March. So yeah, that's the kind of like general vibes of the moon. I'm actually going to give them another little shuffle, actually, because I feel like that is what is needed. And I'm going to take 2 cards this time, and I'm going to actually, like, I don't normally label like what is what for the cards, but I'm going to pull one for like what we should do to best kind of like approach the energy of this moon, and then I'm going to pull one for like what we should avoid doing. That's what I'm feeling today. So let's put our Queen of Air here. So this is like what we should do. And we've got the Messenger of Fire. So we've got another court card here as well. It's the Page of Wands, bringing in that like just feisty, fiery energy, but also like young, creative energy as well. And then to avoid, let's see what we've got here. Interesting, the 5 of Fire. So we've got 2 fiery cards here, both from the same suit, but one of them is for what we should be focusing on, and one of them is for what we should avoid. And I think straight away what's kind of like jumping out is this this crown, this like higher power, and also like how she's kind of like slightly tilted away from us there. And I'm seeing that as being very much related to receiving, like when we have that like that crown of light, it's like that kind of, it's like a halo, isn't it? It's like receiving divine messages, which is what we're doing in this moon cycle now. We're able to receive divine messages, and like, you know, it is the messenger of fire. It wants us to be stirring up our creativity. It wants us to be like making new creative connections between you know, like different, that's what Pisces does as well. You know, it's kind of like about it breaking things down, but then it also, like when we break things down, we can see the separate parts. That's why like Pisces and Virgo are opposite each other, but they've got this polarity, you know, like Virgo is all about the separate parts and Pisces is all about, yes, but they're all part of one big thing, you know. So we've got that energy of like holism and separation at the same time. And I feel like that messenger of fire is calling for us to be creative in the way that we kind of like receive intuition, maybe start to bring things together in different ways, you know. Like if we've been trying to like push something forward, like if you've got a goal for the year perhaps, or you know, even just for this cycle, then what about if we allowed ourselves to have some like deeper insight on it now? And it's maybe not about like changing what the actual outcome of the goal is going to be, or like the focus of the goal, but perhaps we can just rearrange things a little bit so that we can start to try to play, you know, bring that kind of like playful energy in as well with that messenger of fire. But then avoid, you know, like 5 of fire. 5 is like that halfway point in fire, and sometimes when we get to that halfway point, it's almost like a wall sometimes, you know. It's like we've got to make a decision, we kind of hit that point, and I feel like what this is coming is like what we should avoid doing is like forcing. We can't force the transition. You can't force a flower to bloom, you know. That's what's like coming to me when I'm looking at this. There is definitely an element with Pisces of like divine timing. We can't just like kind of like, we talked about how different it is from Aries. Like Aries can just like push things through, it can drive things through, but with Pisces we wait, we observe, and we wait for it to kind of like come to fruition in its own time. So what we need to do is like definitely use our discernment, stay focused on like the kind of, try not to get lost, I suppose. It's not so much about staying focused, it's try not to get lost in like kind of fantasy or being pulled into illusion, which can sometimes happen. But like we've got our Queen of Air really like helping us with that far seeing, and we've, you know, like I say, Athena vibes all the way with that. And then the messenger of fire is calling us to be kind of creative, to be playful, to allow, to take those divine, the divine intuition that we're receiving, that wisdom, and like integrate it, to actually practically integrate it into our lives. I'm trying to integrate that word into this video for you. It's so funny, I think, especially when you talk about Pisces, stuff does just get kind of like a little bit blended, and I feel like I do kind of fall across my words a little bit more, and that's really interesting. Like when we have got Mercury in Pisces, like Mercury in Pisces is said to be in its detriment in Pisces, and I think that is why, you know, it's like there's almost like too much coming through, and it makes it really hard to like really stick to the discrete, like this word. I'm just like blah, 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 you know, like it's all kind of like coming out. But yeah, we need to kind of get creative, practically creative with that. Let's do something, let's make something with this energy, and like be playful with it, and perhaps like, you know, I really think it's calling us to like try something different. Try it, why not, you know, let's try it. So if there's like been something like a creative project or something, especially something that maybe you might have enjoyed as a child, you know, like this is a very childlike image here on this card. Are you getting nudged to try something, to do something? What is it that you used to love to do? Maybe now is the time to get back into that. And then the avoid is very much to be like, but you can't force it. Don't force it. Let it emerge, you know. Like when we think of Pisces as being that watery place, we're waiting for the kind of clarity to emerge. Or maybe what we're waiting for is like for the water to stop kind of like swirling around and just settle, so that we can see through those deep Pisces waters. Overall, the cards are offering insight into how we can really tune in to that, like that sense of true self, but also like self as it relates to all there is, you know, and try and find the wisdom in that, like gleaning the divine wisdom in that before we get into eclipse season, before we get into all that like kind of Aries, more discreet and like pushing forward kind of initiatory energy. You know, this is the clearing, the surrender, the going with the flow, if we can, that happens before we get initiated into that fire energy of the spring in the Northern Hemisphere that is coming around the corner. So how do these cards, how does this energy resonate with your path? If you want to share your experiences, your thoughts, you know, like if you've got different reads on this cards as well, please do share them down below. Don't forget to download your free new moon guide from the link in the description. And I'll share photos of the cards as well over in the Discord community. So if you would like to see more of these cards, maybe I'll share the pictures from the book as well, so you can see a little bit more about those cards over there. But yeah, come and join us. It's a completely free community over on Discord. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this new moon is transformative and magical for you. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.